understand your day, your life is going to get better, honey, once you think twice. Your day, your life is going to get better once you change your perception. So, I had put that we need 1,000 more subscribers because why go small when we can actually go big? Okay, even I think saying 1,000 is still kind of little. But anywho, what better way to come and deliver this message? So earlier when I had woke up this morning, the first thing I thought about was when I used to work at this security job. Okay. And I remember, I don't know why this image came into my mind. I remember when I was working there, our uniform, it had to be a certain color. And like the footwear, you had to wear all black shoes. But one day I took it upon myself. I had just came from DSW, designer shoe wear. I think that's the abbreviation for DSW, a store that I absolutely love. Absolutely love DSW. I mean, I would go there religiously to buy shoes and stuff like that because they will always be discounted. And I remember this one particular day I had went to DSW and I had got, I think it was like 4 pairs of shoes. When I would do shoe shopping, I would buy like multitude of shoes. I wouldn't just buy one pair. I would buy several pairs of shoes. Okay. My shoe closet, it always stayed full. I always had some new shoes. And so I for some reason, this idea came to me, this memory. So I remember I had went and I had got some Coach loafers from DSW. This is probably about, my youngest son he's 10. So this is before I had my youngest son. So I want to say probably about 12 years ago or something like that. Hey, Tracy, peace to you, baby. Peace to you, peace to you. So I remember I was working at the security job and I had went to DSW this day. And I had got some, it was actually on a weekend, and I had got some Coach loafers. I got other shoes. So when I went to work, okay, honey, you couldn't tell me nothing. I was wearing those Coach loafers, okay? So I wore the Coach loafers to work. They was black and gray. You know the Coach loafers, right? They have like the patent leather strip on the back. Okay, I know you guys know. So anyway, so I went to work, and it would be the manager there, and the manager, and then the supervisors. And I remember one of the managers was like, Dina, you can't wear those. They was like, you can't wear those Coach loafers. You can't wear those, right? Honey, you couldn't tell me nothing back then. All right. And so I wore those Coach loafers, and then they told me, of course, I couldn't wear them. And for some reason, that memory popped up. And I remember, so this morning I was like, who was that girl back then? Okay, who was that girl back then? And I started thinking about that. I was like, oh my goodness, I would work so much overtime. It was not even funny. I would go and work, and this is when later on I was pregnant. I would work so much overtime. Every time you turned around, I was working overtime. Okay. My checks used to they stayed lovely. And I started thinking about that. And I was like, girl, if you did that then, come on, right? With thinking about the content creation. So what I did was I thought about that. For some reason, that memory came to my mind. And so I meditated for 20 minutes. And in my meditation session, for some reason or another, this book came to mind. Now, I know you probably like, girl, what happened to the book? Honey, the book done been booking, okay? I done read this book so many times. This is Psychocybernetics by Maxwell Modes. I done read this book so many times. It is such an amazing read. I absolutely love this book. And in here, one of the things that Matt, he's pretty much, he revised the book a little. It's a lot of stuff that's in here that's still the same, but Matt had did like some revisions of the book. And Matt, oh my goodness, listen to this, okay? Listen to this, because this is what you should be doing. Now, I read this part so many times, okay? All right, because like I said, the book done been booking. All right, the book done fell apart some, but that's neither here nor there. Okay. Um, okay, so right here. In February 1987, shortly after graduating from college and moving to California, I decided to go into business for myself as a personal trainer because I had won a national title in college wrestling. I had been trained by Olympic champions Dan Gable and Bruce Begum. Honey, Bruce last name, child, let's move on. I figured I had something valuable to teach young athletes as well as anyone who desired to be more physically fit. Even as I was embarking on this career, I felt that something was holding me back. Do you feel like something is holding you back? Do you feel like, oh my goodness, I know I'm this close to that thing. I know I'm this close to achieving my desired reality. I know I'm this close, okay? And you feel like something is holding you back. And some of you guys may be saying people holding you back, but let me tell you something. Last time I checked, nobody could hold you back but you, okay? And what could hold you back when I say nobody could hold you back but you is that image, that self-image that you have of yourself, okay? If you have a self-image of yourself playing silently in the background in the subconscious mind, that you a loser, you a failure, you failed at this, you didn't succeed at this. If you have that going on in the subconscious mind, silently playing, then the results that you get, that it does not indicate that you feel like you are a winner. Those results that you get in, some may say loser results, those results that you are getting is because of what's going on in the subconscious mind. It's playing silently. Okay. Now, let's get back to it. Now, even as I was embarking on this career, I felt that something was holding me back. There was this inner voice telling me I wasn't good enough, that I couldn't make it. To be honest, first, I had no business experience. Second, I had very little money. Third, deep down, I felt like a failure even before I started. Imagine that I wanted to succeed but felt like a failure. Why did I feel like a failure? When I think about that question, I recall that when I was in high school, my goal was to wrestle for Dan Gable at the University of Iowa. I fulfilled that goal, but I wasn't the number one guy in my weight class. I was almost always number two. I got a lot of matches and tournaments and dual meets and won the majority of them, but I was not in the driver's seat. And so after my sophomore season, I transferred to Edinburgh, University of Pennsylvania, where I be on the varsity. During my junior year at Edinburgh, I set a single season win record for the team, 39, and won the NCAA 2 national title. After winning the Division II title, I was ranked 7th overall in the country and qualified for the Division I tournament. My goals were to not only win the tournament, I already won, but Division I tournament as well. Well, I felt short, way short. I was crushed afterwards, yet fully committed to coming back as a senior and making up for my poor showing during my senior year, despite having far more skill than ever. Now, let me share this with you guys, okay? Greetings to North Korea. Good vibes, positive national. Let me share this with you guys. So, I had told you guys, I know I told this story before, but let me tell it again. When I was younger, I wanted to become a police officer, right? That was like one of my goals. So if you don't know my background story, when I was younger, I got into some trouble, okay, with the law. And then as I got older, I remember I went to this all girls program in Chester, New Jersey. My father, he just passed away. And while he passed away, I was in a juvenile detention center. So after that, I had went to an all girls home because my mother's side of the family pretty much was like, we're not going to deal with her, not deal with her, but we're not going to take custody of her because we don't know who or she was involved with as far as like legal activity. So I wound up going in the system. So while I was in the all girls home, what wound up happening was my brother and sister from my father's side, their mother and their mother husband decided to get custody of me. Okay. But while I was in this all girls home, I had met this guy named Mr. Oral. He was so cool. And he was one of the staffs there. And I remember he would talk about him becoming a FBI agent, right? And I was like, oh my goodness, I want to be an FBI agent. Like, I really want to do this and stuff like that. And I remember he had this book that he would bring, like it was like this study guide, like reading up and stuff like that on becoming an FBI agent. And he would bring this book, and I would read the book and everything like that. Like, oh my goodness, I would read that book religiously. Okay. And so later on, I wound up getting dismissed, discharged from the program and stuff like that. And then I went and stayed with my brother and sister mother from my father's side. And I went and stayed with her and her husband and her son, right? And I felt like, it was really good. I had so much freedom. I pretty much, I wouldn't say could do what I wanted to do, because growing up, I grew up like in the strict household. Okay. When I lived with my father, I could pretty much do whatever it is that I wanted to do. There was like hardly any consequences. My father was the type, like, whatever you do, you gonna reap what you sow. He wasn't a helicopter parent. Pretty much you can do whatever you wanted to do. There was basically any supervision. And there was a lot going on in my father's house. And so later on, I had went, we gonna fast forward. So when I was about 13 years, I think it was 13, when I went to go stay with my brother and sister mother, or 14, went to go stay with my brother and sister mother. There was supervision, but it wasn't so strict. Like when I lived with my aunt from my mother's side, my mother's sister, right? I mean, it was strict. And so when you grow up in a strict household, a lot of the times the children, they wind up rebelling, okay? Because they like, oh my goodness, it's so strict here, whatever it is like that. So living with my brother and sister mother, there was rules, like I had a curfew and stuff like that. Of course I had to go to school, I was in high school and stuff. And so after I moved out from my brother and sister mother house, I still wanted to become at this time, I just was like a police officer, right? And I remember I was in college. I went to a community college, and at this community college, I remember I had this professor, Professor Drew. Oh my goodness. You talk about cool. He was so cool. I absolutely love Professor Drew. He was a retired Jersey City police officer. And then he became, I think, a probation officer. And he also was a professor, okay, at the community college. And I remember one day he had us do this assignment about something like the lessons we learned, or the person that we used to be. And I wrote about my story about how when I was like, young, I don't want to say 12, I probably like 11, though I was in a pharmaceutical business, okay? And I remember I wrote this story, honey. If you don't know what the pharmaceutical business, I just don't know, honey. But I wrote this, paper, and like I explained like in details, and it was this one area where I used to be. And he was like, oh, like he couldn't believe the person who wrote this paper was the same person that was like sitting in his class. He couldn't believe it. And so I remember one day he called me up. he was like, Dina, is this you? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, do you mind reading this in front of the class? And I was like, oh my goodness. Like, I was like, first, when I read in front of people, like if I got to stand up and speak in front of people, I would have this thing where as though I would be like a little scared to do so, right? And one of the things to get out of it is you got to keep on doing it, like keep on doing keep on doing speeches in order for you to get out of there. Okay. And so I remember he was like, could you stand up in front of the class and read this? I don't know why. I guess like because to motivate, whatever. And I remember I read it to the class and stuff like that. And the people who had my fellow classmates, they had clapped and stuff. And then later on that day, I remember Professor Drew, he was like, Dina, I don't know because on there, I was like, oh, I want to be a police officer, like not want to be, I'm going to be a police officer and stuff like that. And it's been like a lot of the correctional officers when I was in juvie, like I still keep in contact with them to today. Okay. Even fact, one of them had came to my speaking engagement. Okay. When I had gave a speaking engagement, one of them had came there to show support. And so I remember he was like, Dana, I don't know if you're gonna be able to do that. he was like, because when you was a kid, your childhood and stuff. And the first thing came to my mind was like, what about Judge Mathis? Okay, like Judge Mathis was in some criminal stuff when he was a kid. Like, what about him? That's what I was thinking, right? And he was like, Professor Drew, he was like, well, you could get your record like expunged because that's when you was a minor and stuff like that. And I was like, that day he was like, but what you could do, you could be, like a social worker or like a motivational. And I was looking at him like, ain't nobody doing that. Look at full circle. Okay, full circle. And I just was like, I don't want to do that. And the main reason I wanted to become a police officer was because of the control, was because of the authority. That was like really the main reason. Okay. And I would say to protect and serve, but honey, it was the main reason was was the authority and the control. Okay, that was really it. And so I remember I had took a test, right? I had took a test. Let me tell you something. When you determine, like you gonna do it. I remember New York City, they was hiring police officers. And I remember I had to go to the Bronx. Okay. This day I had to go to the Bronx by myself. I didn't know what train to catch. I didn't know like exactly how to get over there. I didn't know none of that. But I was so determined to take this test. And when I tell you there were so many people there, oh my goodness. And you couldn't have your phone, like they confiscated the phones and stuff like that. And then after you took the test, they gave the phones back. But when I tell you, I was so determined, I wanted to be a police officer like so bad that I even went to New York to take their test. And then after that, I took their test and my school, I forgot my school, but I didn't pass it. And then I had took the test for Jersey City police officers. And I took that test and I was off from a few points. And one of the things that sometimes that comes up, right? I be like, oh my goodness, like you wanted to be a police officer and, so sometimes that comes up. And then also, sometimes what else comes up is, when you going after the thing that you desire for your life, right? Your desired reality. Sometimes you can look back on your life and be like, dang, everything that I started before, I never finished it. Like I remember when I had took Bob Proctor's to be mentored by Bob Proctor, one of the things he said, ask your friends, like, what are some of your strengths and some of your weaknesses? And at that time, I was with my youngest children's father. And I asked him, I was like, what are some of my weaknesses? And he was like, well, you start things, but it's times you don't finish up on them. Right. And for some reason, right, sometimes we could be thinking like, oh, that's not in the back of our subconscious mind, but sometimes that's playing in our subconscious mind. And maybe that's why sometimes you don't do the things that you set out to do. But I'm going to share 2 stories with you guys that really, really motivated me. So I don't know if you guys watch what's his name? Darlin. Um he's a comedian and he's like on social media. I absolutely love him. Darlin something. He has like the dreads and he go around asking people, he'd be like, you got $1? Right? He's so funny. And so I remember I was watching, for some reason, this video just came up. The other night, 2 nights ago, I was in my room and I watch his videos. And I was in my room and it was a video that I wanted to see of his that had popped up on my phone. So what I did was I had went on my TV and put YouTube on Damon Darlin. And as I put the TV on, one of the things that occurred was this other video came up. So as this other video came up, this is the video where it's Damon Darlin. He's talking about like how he hit 100,000 YouTube subscribers. And he was like telling his story. And he was like, same as that concept. He was like, he would start things but never ever like really finish things. And he was like, the fact that now he has 100,000 YouTube subscribers, like that means so much to him. And he also said that he was making content for 7 years, right? And I was like so inspired by his story. And I was like, oh my goodness, what made this come on, right? But I was really, really inspired by his story. So sometimes when you on your path, right, of creating your desired reality, and as you going, you may be like, there's no evidence that shows like, I'm heading towards my desired reality. There's always messages along the way. Like that video with Damon Darlin that I had watched the other day. And then yesterday, I had came across another YouTuber. I'm going to remember his name. Next time I'm going to write his name down. So I'm always looking like, how could I do better with my content, right? I'm always looking for ways to do better with my content. I'm always looking for ways to become better, not just with content, but overall, like a better person. And I remember yesterday I had came across, because I was like, okay, because there was some people, some content creators that was saying, having timestamps and get videos like that helps a lot. It helps, especially with Google. Like, when people on Google, they search different things up, they looking for different things. Sometimes your video will be like suggested because now, you have those timestamps, on your video, letting people know exactly like which part the video has what. So, I was watching this guy, and one of the things he was saying, he was talking about Mr. Beat's journey when Mr. Beats first started making content. And he was like, Mr. Beats, for the first 2 years, it took Mr. Beats 2 years to get 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. It took him 2 years to get 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. So when you're looking at yourself and you're like, oh my goodness, you can't do this or you can't do that, the thing that makes the people that's successful or them in a where they are currently today, and what makes you different is that they wanted it. They seen it for themselves. They was not willing to quit. They was not willing to give up. They was willing to be patient with themselves. They was willing to do the work, not complain, but look for solutions on how they could become better. And when you going through, let me tell you, if you want your life to be different, you are definitely going to have to be different. Like you can't be the same exact person thinking that, oh, you're gonna get different results and you're the same exact person. That's just not gonna work. It's just not gonna work. Get it out of your head. It's just not gonna work, because that's not how life is. You have to be willing to become somebody different. And so sometimes I think about like, oh my goodness, Nina, when you was working, you had this, you had that. And even with Chat GPT, right? I told you guys when I did a video the other day, that I went on Chat GPT and I was like, should I get a part-time job? And it's sometimes some of this stuff comes out for me. Should I get a part-time job? And one of the things Chat GPT was like, no, you shouldn't get a part-time job because it's going to take away the energy that you put into your content is going to take that away, right? That energy. Now you're going to be putting that energy into that part-time job when you could have been putting that energy into your content creation and becoming better and stuff like that. You always do what works for you. That's just my situation, but you definitely do what works for you. Like, I'm so fortunate, like where I am in my life right now, where as though it don't, like I don't have to, get a job. You get what I'm saying? Like I could do the thing that I am passionate about. I can do the thing that I absolutely love to do. And I am so grateful and thankful for that. So getting back to it, I'm going to close out with this. Okay. Remember what I said about Matt, how he said pretty much he felt crushed. Well, I felt sure, way sure. I was crushed afterwards, yet fully committed to coming back as a senior and making up for my poor showing. During my senior year, despite having far more skills than ever. Wait, hold on, child, because I told you guys this was this was ripped. Okay. All right. Before I fell short again, I took fifth in Division II tournament and did not qualify for the Division I meet. There were many reasons I can give now for why I fell short, but at the time I couldn't put my finger on it. I know, like, why back there, you wasn't successful, right? Why back there? Sometimes it's because you accepted somebody else's limitations, right? Like when great professor, absolutely loved Professor Drew, okay? But I accepted what he said when he said, oh, Dina, I don't know about you becoming a police officer because, when you was a child, some of the things you did. And I accepted it. Although I took the test and stuff, but back in my mind, I had subconsciously playing, I ain't gonna become a police officer. I had to have that plan because if not, I would have kept on pursuing it. I would have kept on going. Okay. So sometimes, not for nothing, we have to be real with ourselves. And although, being real with ourselves, sometimes it may hurt, it may sting a little, you may cry somewhat, right? Because the idea of, you telling yourself the truth, sometimes it's a little, it's a little discomfort. Okay. So there were many reasons I can give now for why I fell short, but at the time I couldn't put my finger on them. And when I began my business, I suspected that it was these same reasons that were causing me to worry and feel fearful about the future. As fate would have it, fate. Remember what I said about Damon Darling and watching the other guy YouTube channel, and he was saying about Mr. Beats and talking, and Damon Darling was saying like how it took him 7 years. Okay, right? Fate. Okay, just when you like, oh my goodness, maybe you like, I'm throwing the towel in, and then something at that particular moment, something causes you to reconsider you throwing in the towel. Something causes you to say, you know what? I'm going to keep on going. I'm going to keep on going a little longer. I'm going to keep on going. I'm going to be more determined than ever, right? Fate. So he goes on and he says, now, as fate would have it, in early May of 1987, when I was nearly out of business due to a lack of clientele, Jack, a successful 57-year-old entrepreneur, signed up for 12 lessons. Whenever he showed up to train, he'll scan to see what books I had in my office, which would lead to a lively discussion of what we were reading. During Jack's fifth session, when he was catching a breather between sets, he asked the following life-changing question. Matt, have you ever read Psychocybernetics? If you guys do not have Psychocybernetics, I want you to invest in yourself and get Psychocybernetics. Now, You could go on like on my YouTube, right? I have my Amazon link, right? You can buy Psychocybernetics from my Amazon link. I do earn a percentage from it. You can get Psychocybernetics from there, okay? Or you could get it from your bookstore, or you could get it from Amazon, okay? But I need you to invest into yourself, okay? Because there's things in your life that you really, really want to do. And psychocybernetics, in the words of Jack, psychocybernetics is like the Bible of personal development, okay? And so it goes on, and he says, Matt, have you ever read Psychocybernetics? No, I replied. Is it good? Well, it's sort of like the Bible of self-help. You really need to read it. Over the next 10 minutes, Jack talked to me about success and self-image. He told me that Dr. Motz was a plastic surgeon who figured out that a person cannot raise above how he sees himself. Our future, Jack said, is controlled by a mental blueprint we have inside our subconscious mind, and it dictates where we think we belong. If you want to get more clients and make more money, then you need to expand your self-image before you can have them. Trying to achieve without expanding your self-image doesn't lead to lasting positive change. After Jack's lesson, I got in my car and drove to the nearest bookstore, the Capitol Book Cat. And the preface, which appears in its original version, in this edition, Dr. Motz wrote, "This book has to be designed not merely to be read, but to be experienced. You can acquire information from reading a book, but to experience, you must creatively respond to information." He goes on to advise readers to continue to practice the techniques in a book and reserve judgment for at least 21 days. The amount of time, let me see, the amount of time, because this is right. Okay, so I gotta find it. All right, let's skip to the next one. All right, so Psycho Foundation at the time asked me to charge. No, that's not it. Oh, okay. What I needed to be doing on a daily basis, it was something I had never done before. I was to enter this place that Dr. Motz called the theater of the mind. Okay. I closed my eyes, then remember and relive my best moments, seeing them play out like a mental movie. My victories, my successes, my happiest times. After reliving, but let me touch based upon what Dr. Motz said. What Dr. Motz said, the plastic surgeon. Now, Dr. Motz was a plastic surgeon, and he would do all types of surgery on people, right? And what he noticed was that some people, when he would do surgery on them, that they would instantly have a healthier self-image of themselves. But then there was clients that he would do surgery on them, and no matter how beautiful the surgery, that he performed, no matter how amazing it was, these people, they still had a self-image of themselves that they wasn't good enough, that they wasn't pretty enough, okay? Some, they would have like a peculiar nose, okay? And he would do surgery and they still felt that their nose was big. And so what that led Dr. Motz to know was that we have two images of ourselves, our outer image and our inner image. Okay. And a lot of, like, when I was a kid, someone that I love dearly. Okay. This person, they had a drinking problem. Right. And I remember when I was a kid, I used to wonder, like, why did they have this drinking problem? And when I grew up to become a teenager, one of the things that I would always say was, I would say, oh, I'm going to get their hair done. I'm going to get their nails done. I'm going to take them shopping. Like, I would say these things because I felt like if they outer image was like really put together, then they would stop drinking. No, 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 no. It doesn't matter if they outer image is put together. If they inner image is that they're not worthy, that they're a reject, that they're good for nothing, that they're a loser, okay, if that's what's playing in a subconscious mind, right, it doesn't matter what you do for the outside, because what's dictating your actions is what you got playing in the subconscious mind. And it's the same thing for as like when I would be working and I would buy all these different things, the perfume, the bags, the shoes. I would buy all these different things. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's nothing wrong with you buying what you like. Okay. It's nothing wrong with it. But no matter how many items I purchased, right, I still was attracting the same exact type of guys. Okay. Now, after doing reading and looking at my life and saying, oh, that's why, back then, like Matt said, he couldn't figure it out. But I remember, buying all these different things and still attracting the same exact type of guys. And when I say the same exact type of guys, I'm talking about effeminate guys that are more so feminine in a feminine, and a feminine as opposed to their masculinity. And the reason I was attracting those guys was because I was more so in my masculinity energy as opposed to my feminine energy. Okay. And so back then I didn't know none of this. Okay. Like I didn't know this. And so no matter how I would dress up and all these different things, because you are attracting people based upon what you perceive you deserve. So if you're a person you like subconsciously, if you have not gotten over what your parents may have done to you when you was a child, right? Maybe you got some abandonment issues going on, or maybe you got some neglect issues or whatever it is. If you don't come to terms with it and make peace with it and understand that they did the best that they knew how to do, that somebody cannot give you oranges if all they have is apples. If you come to peace with it, I can guarantee you the people in your life, you will start attracting better. Okay. Because now what you're saying is you're not saying like you're waiting for your parents to apologize to you, right? Because no matter if they apologize to you, some people say, well, I need them to apologize. Well, if they apologize, maybe it'll give you some closure, but ultimately this is your life. This is your life. And if they apologize to you, you still may have some type of resentment in your heart because you feel like if you was brought up different, or if your situation was different, your life would have been so much different than what it currently is. And I am here to say, how do you know that? How do you know if your parents brought you up, raised you, or if the circumstances, because everything that has occurred in our lives, it has brought us to where we currently are today. And if you are a person that just can't get over, me as a parent, I remember I would look at, some of the things, some of the decisions my mother made, and I would say, oh my goodness, how could my mother have done some of those things? My mother didn't have custody of me when I was a child. And I remember it was so many times as though, me picking my children up from school, and I would say, Dad, I could only understand what my mother was going through. When you start experiencing some of the things that perhaps, your parents experience, and you take their experience and make the best of it and say, you know what, this is not going to define me. This is not going to stop me. I'm going to keep on going. Okay. And when you look at that and you keep on going, right? And then you can say, I can understand what my mother was going through. You can have empathy, sympathy, right? And not look at it like, oh, well, my mother couldn't do X, Y, and Z or whatever it is. But understand that, you know what? Because and I remember I told my mother, I said, you know what, I'm grateful because the way my life has turned out, I am grateful for my upbringing. Okay. And you gotta be grateful for it because your upbringing, it could have been 20 times worse. I'm not saying, I'm not downplaying what occurred in your life or anything like that. I don't know what happened in your life. But what I am saying is you're going to have to make peace with it because it shows up in every aspect of your life. Those things, those grudges, those resentments that you don't want to make peace with, it shows up in your bank account. It shows up in your relationships. It shows up everywhere. Okay. And so, getting back to the story, that's what I oftentimes would say, well, if I could change this person outer image, then they would, choose a different route. They would choose different friends and, different people and stuff like that. But all of that is a reflection on the inside. Why people lives are the way they are is because of the self-image that they have of themselves. Okay. Now, getting back to it, which part? Okay, so after reliving and re-experiencing myself at my best, I was able to flip a switch and use my imagination in the same way I use my memory. I could imagine and feel that I was achieving a goal in the future, but experience it as if it was happening now. Almost as if it was the memory of another accomplished goal. Once I mastered this technique, everything began to change for me instantly. And yes, I do mean instantly. I felt good. I felt happy. I felt successful. I felt like a winner. It was an odd sensation intellectually. It made no sense. How could I be happy now? How could I feel success now? How could I feel like a winner now? Didn't I have to achieve those goals in order to feel good, to be happy? And what about all the failures? Were they simply forgotten? Wasn't I supposed to feel bad forever? Some of you guys feel like you're supposed to feel bad forever. Some of you guys may feel like, when you catch yourself having happy moments, you feel like, oh, I shouldn't be so happy, or I shouldn't be dancing, or I shouldn't be smiling so much or laughing so hard because, some things in the past that occurred, right? Or some of you guys, you don't enjoy your lives because you like it's only a matter of time before something bad happens. And it's almost like that you're looking forward to it. And as long as you look forward to something bad is happening, I'm not saying, things in your life not going to occur. Because you are going to experience obstacles. I don't care how spiritual you are. You will experience, or how religious you are. You will experience obstacles. It's just something that comes with life. You will experience it. But it's not the obstacles itself. It is how you perceive those things. You can look at it like, oh, this is a big opportunity for me. Or you can look at it like this is a big problem. In the book, As a Man Thinketh by James Allen, one of the things he said, he who say is hard, he who believes is hard, and he who believes something else, right? But basically, whatever you believe, that's what it is, okay? You can tell your friend, girl, it's some good men out here. And your friend may say, girl, they all dogs. Who belief is right? Both beliefs are right, because the one who says there are some good men out here, her reality is going to reflect it. Okay. And the one who says that there's dogs, her reality is going to reflect it. So both is right, but it's not about if it's right. Is what is about is that what you want for your life? So you got to look at your belief systems and say, is this what I want for my life? You know, me having a belief system like I gotta work so hard in order for me to be successful, right? I gotta pretty much be drained in order for me to be successful. Where did that belief comes from? Okay. Well, when you was a kid, constantly you were lazy, okay, or throughout the day you were lazy. You are so lazy. Guess what? Oftentimes when you grow up, you doing all these different things around your house, or you working all these different jobs. Why? Because you have this playing in the subconscious mind that you don't want to be lazy, right? And so it's like you still trying to prove yourself to your parents or to whomever, okay, that you're not what they labeled you as, right? And then it comes to a point where as though you say, well, is this actually helping me, or is this actually hurting me? Me trying to live up to somebody else's expectations. And that's what you have to ask yourself. Okay. All right. So going on, this is where Psychocybernetics. Wait, hold on. How could I feel successful now? How could I feel good to be happy? And what about all the failures? Were they simply forgotten? Wasn't I supposed to feel bad forever for not achieving everything I set out to do? This is where Psychocybernetics cannot be understood by passively reading. This is where it cannot be understood by analysis, argument, debating, or intellectualizing. You must experience the reality of it in order to truly know the truth. The mere reading of words will not show you or give you the experience of truth. Since that glorious day of May of 1987, I experienced a lot. The list of achievements, accomplishments, and victories that I can recall is quite long. In the short term, okay. Let me see. I can recall is quite long. And in the short term, I built a successful personal fitness business. See, he was so focused before on him not accomplishing the things that he set out to do. But once he got the book, or once he became aware, okay, let's just say awareness. Once he became aware of what he was focusing on, where his focus was going, where his energy was going, right? If you all day long are focusing on, well, I set out to do things and I didn't accomplish those things, and then you go out to do something different, right? If you would say you want to be successful, but all day you focusing on how you failed, right? Then you're going to get more of those failures, because that's where all your time and energy is going. That's what you focusing on. That's what you paying attention to. Instead of using your imagination and saying, hold up, what about all the times that I succeeded? Because I could guarantee you there's way more times that you succeeded than you failed. And a person that says, no, there's way more times they failed, you're right. I don't debate and I don't argue. You do what works for you. It's for you to look at your life and say, you know what? I deserve better. I deserve more. Okay. Now, then in 1997, at 34 years of age, I won a world championship in Kung Fu in Beijing, China, beating the Chinese at their own game. Something no other American had ever done. Since then, I've written books and created fitness and martial arts programs that I have found a worldwide audience. Okay, and then he talks about how his friend Dan Kennedy, who helped the Psychocybernetics, I think it's the Institute? But you get the drift. Okay, so what am I saying? What I'm saying is you're going to have to start using your imagination and focusing on what it is that you desire. Okay. And use your imagination for all the times that you succeeded. I got to download. I had looked at my numbers and I said, oh no, we should have been at 12,000 and something. Okay. For my subscribers on YouTube. And I got to download, make a video. And so I said, oh, okay. So I came and I showed up. You get these intuition nudges, this gut feeling on what to do all throughout the day. But the question is, do you listen to it? Do you follow it? Do you listen to when your gut is saying, show up? Do you listen to when your gut is saying, go there? There's a lot of things that many of us should be doing, and oftentimes we don't do it. Okay. But then it comes a point in time where as though we say, you know what? I am going to take action. I am going to show up. And so this is what it looks like. I thought about my meditation. Okay. I thought about Psychocybernetics when Matt was saying, go to the theater of the mind. And as I was sitting on a bed, I said, you know what? Instead of me looking at my numbers and saying, oh, I should be at 12,000, whatever, create a video. Okay. The quickest things to grow on YouTube, one is going live. Okay. Going live. And also number 2 is your shorts. The real videos that you make, the real content, the reels content that you make. And of course, paying attention to your analytics, okay, to see what's working and get rid of what's not working. But yeah, you can complain about it, bitch and moan about it, or you can take action on it. I mean, it's some people that point the finger at other people or say, it's the algorithm or is this or these people don't want me to win. Nobody can stop you from winning. Nobody. Nobody has that much power to stop you from winning. How could someone stop you from winning? Unless you allow it. Unless you really believe that someone can stop you from winning, then they can stop you. But no one can stop me. No one can stop me. No one. Okay. And so you have to look at yourself and understand it. Not think it, but know it. Not believe it, but know it. Not think it, not believe it, but know it. That no one can stop me. No one can stop you. And that's what you have to know. So with that being said, I got to get ready. My oldest son is coming to pick me up. I'm going to a few other Dollar Tree stores. And so I'll catch you guys on the next one. Make sure you're rocking out, believing in yourself. Make sure you go and cop Psychocybernetics, because not only will you be supporting me, okay, but do it if your heart is calling you to do it. If it's not, don't buy it, okay? I mean, hey, tomato. You have to do what works for you. But to the ones that will purchase it, okay, you can go on my Amazon, you could go on YouTube, okay, on my homepage, and you know where it has like the bio information. Go on Amazon, is an Amazon link, and you can get Psychocybernetics. There's other books that I have on there that I have read and are my go-to. Another one is the Prosperity Bible. Absolutely love that book. Until next time, I catch you guys on the next one. Peace.